Today we're remembering all the people who died in nursing homes and in residential care settings throughout Ireland. We're remembering the families who loved them, and we're remembering the staff who looked after them. And we're thinking in particular about loss. And when we think of loss, we think of the loss of the person who has died, and of course that's so true. But because COVID-19 restricted everything so much, it meant that a person who was dying suffered so many losses. Their family suffered so many losses. The staff who cared for them suffered so many losses. In the middle of COVID, when it was at its worst, we were in survival mode and we were just trying to get through the day, the basic day-to-day things without even thinking. But in the middle of it all of these stories were unfolding. People were dying in nursing homes and families were being restricted from visiting. Families could not come in, families could not sit with, families could not hold their hands, families could not do those simple little kindnesses that we love to do around somebody who's dying when we feel we can't do anything else. The mopping of the brow, the offering of a sip of water, the fixing of the pillows and the bedclothes, but most importantly, that communal piece where people sit around the bed and hold the hand of the person who's dying, tell them how much they love them, reassure them, tell them that they're okay, that they're not going to be left alone, telling them that they've nothing to worry about, that they've done a great job and it's okay for them to go if that's what they're ready to do. All those things we just assume, because we've always done it in the past, that we'll continue to do it for the people that we love, and that when our turn comes, people will be facilitated to do that for us. COVID robbed us of all those things. What did we get? We got the gloved hand. We got the social distancing. We got the full PPE. We got the window visits. We weren't even allowed to say goodbye to the person we loved who had died. We weren't even able to see them after they died. We weren't even allowed to pick out the clothes for them that they were going to be laid out in. Something so basic and simple as that. We got the phone call, the dreaded phone call, during the day or the middle of the night to say that he or she had died and that the undertaker would be in touch. The next we saw of the person was in a sealed coffin in the undertaker's. No chance to touch that body, no chance to put anything in with the person, no little chance for a memento or a grandchild's card. Nothing could be placed in with the person because the coffin was sealed. It was the loss of all of that. And I think for the staff themselves, this was so alien to what they were trained to do and what they would have always loved and imagined that they would be doing for the people they cared for, often over many, many years. And it's that provision of hospitality, that can-do attitude when somebody's dying, that the rules are always bent a little, that everything that can be done is done for the person who's dying and for their family to make that person's life as comfortable and as meaningful as possible, because there is that understanding that we only get one chance to do this and we have to get it right, because even though we might have cared for the person beautifully over 3 or 4 years, if we get it wrong at the end, that's all the family will remember. The staff lost the opportunity to do what they do best, to offer that hospitality and welcome to people, to come in, to sit with, to have privacy, to ensure dignity for the person who's dying, to create spaces that were safe so that people could say goodbye in the way that they wanted to, that they could cry with the person, that they could lie on the bed with the person, that they could hold the person, that they could do all of those things. The staff had to look on from the outside, knowing that this is what should happen but couldn't happen. So instead of welcome on the front door, there was a big sign that said stay away. Instead of intimacy, there was social distancing. Instead of touch, there was gloved hands. Instead of a hug, there was standing at the door and talking across at somebody. Instead of people being present, people were absent. It was the direct opposite of everything that we would want around us at end of life. And it's the loss of all of those things that are seriously having an impact, not only on the families who have lost somebody they love, but also on the people who cared for them, who had to provide a service that was way different from anything they would have ever imagined they would have done before COVID-19. So I think in this time of reflection now, when the pressure's off, I think we need to actually acknowledge for ourselves that these people who died in a way that was far different than anything we would have ever thought about before, or imagined, or even considered thinking about or allowing. For the families, this was just a disaster. because they never got really to say a proper goodbye to the people they loved. And to the staff who looked after them, this was just a massive loss. And the fear was that the person who died alone, lonely and afraid. And nothing that staff members, the kind of staff member, could say to anybody could reassure them of anything different. But in this time of reflection, I think we need to acknowledge that we've just come through a time that was completely different than anything we could have imagined before. We've come through it, and we're now in this place of reflection, and we're looking back. Above all, we need to be kind to ourselves. We need to acknowledge the loss. We need to acknowledge what happened. And we need to acknowledge that this was really difficult for the person who died, for the families of that person who died, and for the staff who cared for them. That everybody had a difficult time. And we need to be gentle with ourselves and realise that the recovery phase from COVID-19 is going to take a long while. It's a long road, but it doesn't have to be a lonely road. And the important thing about recovery is that we reach out to each other, we talk about what happened, we share how we felt about it, and we put it to rest. But it's going to take time. My key phrase would be acknowledge what happened, acknowledge the loss, acknowledge the sadness, but be kind to yourself and to each other.